Hi everyone, it's Eric. About a week ago I made a video called Paul Feig and Sony Know Ghostbusters Sucks, and that video was just me getting my opinion out there. I didn't think it would get anywhere near as much views as it did, and right after reading some of those comments I actually felt like I wanted to go watch the original Ghostbusters movie, so I went, I saw it, and now I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions on it. However, there will be a little twist. I'm not just going to do a standard review of the original movie, I am also going to do comparisons whilst I'm talking about the elements of the original, and I'm going to compare it to the 2016 version. Another reason I want to review this movie is because I didn't know this, but today, on July the 11th, the female Ghostbusters has actually been released in the UK. So instead of watching that movie today, even though I wasn't going to do that anyway, I thought it would just feel good just to review the original. So without any further ado, let's get to my review of the original Ghostbusters. Now the movie opens up in the library and immediately the tone is very ominous and mysterious. We know something is not right due to the music that's playing, but we don't know what. Then you start to see books fly from shelf to shelf, you start seeing drawers open on their own, and then it becomes immediately apparent that the ghost wants to reveal itself when it starts flicking up all these different papers and cards, and it reveals itself to the lady. Immediately we are then taken to a scene with Bill Murray, and we don't know exactly what he's doing. He's doing this sort of ESP test with this girl and this guy, the students. And once you figure out what he's up to, you just immediately are captivated. Me and my little brother were watching this movie and we couldn't stop laughing at that scene. On Bill Murray's first scene, you realise that he is a troublemaker. And what's really impressive about the scene is that it is very subtle. There is hardly anyone talking out loud. The scene kind of feels like a therapy session in terms of how quiet it is, yet there is still so much comedic elements going on in that scene, and it makes you laugh. That is so impressive that they could manage to achieve something like that. The new Ghostbusters, on the other hand, throughout the whole trailer, it thinks in order to be funny, it needs to be like yelling out loud so it can broadcast the whole joke to like basically the whole entire block. That's what that movie feels like. But this Ghostbusters is just so silent and so subtle, and the comedic tones are like delivered so well. And that's just not just with this one scene. Throughout the whole movie, our main Ghostbusters are talking to each other, and they're talking like normal in a very neutral kind of like volume, and it gets the point across, it gets the comedy across, it's doing character development at the same time, it's telling the story at the same time, it's giving their motivations at the same time, and all the while, it still feels natural, organic, it doesn't feel scripted like this is something that they have to say, and it really makes you interested in these characters, it makes you want to see them through till the very end. And it progresses the story at the same time. Storytelling, character development, all that immediately is so ingeniously done in this first Ghostbusters movie. And that is something I have not seen done in hardly any movies, let alone a movie that is meant to be about ghosts. Fantastic, that is incredibly impressive, and they really deserve props for that. Going back to the original Ghostbusters movie, we are introduced to Rick Moranis' character and Sigourney Weaver's character. So he obviously has a thing for her and all that, and believe it or not, I actually did feel, I'm pretty certain many of you guys did too, I did feel like quite sympathetic towards him. He felt like this kind of like outcast nerd who just doesn't really have much friends with him, quite ironically, even though he runs a bunch of parties. But he still kind of like feels like an outcast. He feels like he just wants to bring in people to these parties so he can get attention. And he's trying to get attention from Sigourney Weaver as well, and it's hilarious how he constantly is like monitoring her, looking through the keyhole of his door, just waiting for her to come, and then just opens the door just so he can quickly chat to her. Again, something that was really fantastic about the whole comedic element of this movie is how the amount of times he locks himself out of his own apartment. that was hilarious. Like the whole thing, it really got me laughing. And also, I did feel again sorry for him when he got locked out of his apartment in his own party. Luckily, he got back in quite quickly, but man, this guy, you feel really sympathetic towards him. But yeah, Rick Moranis, how understated he plays his character is really hilarious. What I mean by understated, the best example is when he hears the roar of the Zool dog, and he's like, alright, who bought the dog? And then the dog just comes out. That was really, that perfect delivery. Just how clueless he was in that scene, again, made me laugh. Going back to Bill Murray, I really liked how he's the only member of the group who seems to act like nothing phases him, no matter what goes on. Even the scene when he sees Slimer for the first time, just the way he just approaches the corner and then just stops in one of the most dullest expressions and sees Slimer, And you could tell he's still got the look on his face, like it's not like nothing is phasing him, but he is obviously phased. Just the way he's like standing still. He doesn't even go for his proton pack weapon. He just pulls out his walkie-talkie and goes, "I see it." Fantastic performance right there. So I've talked about the characters right now. I could talk about them forever, but let's move on. Let's talk about the ghosts. Now, something that really took me by surprise with the ghosts is that this movie came out in 1984. After that, we've seen so many other ghost movies, yet none of them seem to compare to this one. After all these years, the ghosts in Ghostbusters don't seem like a cliche. They seem like they've got a very unique design, and whenever you see a ghost like this, you're like, that one's from Ghostbusters, that one's from Ghostbusters. It just seems so unique, and we haven't seen any ghosts like that in Hollywood, at least to my knowledge, which is quite rare, because once Hollywood actually has something, they usually like to abuse that. But this movie just took it, used it once, it still feels unique after all these years, and watching this movie in this day and age, when we've seen so many tedious and repetitive ghost effects, it was just welcoming, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. This movie just felt really therapeutic, and it was just so nice just to watch. It wasn't giving me a headache like this new Ghostbusters looked like it's gonna be. They didn't have to yell for comedy. It was so witty, it was so smart. The scene with Dickless as well, I'm sure he has a name, but I can't remember it, so I'm just gonna call him Dickless. I'm pretty sure everyone else will. I love the scene when they said that everything was fine till Dickless here turned off the grid, and then that led to one of the funniest jokes in the movie.
Is this true?
Yes, it's true. This man has no dick.
Again, I just couldn't stop laughing at that. As a joke like that, when I was a kid, I did not understand. And I'm glad that many of this stuff in this movie I don't remember. Because the only thing I do remember is just a couple of visual stuff. The Zool dogs coming after Sigourney Weaver in her chair, dragging her towards her fridge, the librarian ghost, and some scenes with the Zool dogs. Apart from that, I remembered nothing about the movie. Well, I also remembered Bill Murray getting slimed, but yeah, apart from that, I remembered nothing of the movie. And for me, it felt so refreshing to have a crappy Ghostbusters movie like this coming out, but yeah, I'm actually watching a movie that is actually meant to be one of the things that sort of like got Ghostbusters going in the first place. Okay, so Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, who's now unfortunately passed on, they had fantastic performances, and all of the Ghostbusters work off each other so well. Okay, now let's move on to what I did not like so much about this movie. Now, there wasn't much. There was a couple nitpicks, and I will mention one of those nitpicks, then I'll move on to one problem with the movie, which I do think is a problem. Okay, so my first nitpick is when Sigourney Weaver saw Murray's character. You could tell she really wasn't interested in him at all. She just kind of like found his character to be different and weird and strange, and she laughed him out the door basically, literally. And then later on when she does see him down the line, once they sort of become like celebrities, she very quickly warms up to him, and I think that didn't feel very organic. That just felt a bit rushed right there. So, it's a nitpick, but it's something that I saw and noticed when I watched the movie. Okay, now here comes my number one main problem with the film, and that is when Sigourney Weaver gets possessed by the Zool dog. Now, please tell me this, I really want to know, was I the only one that found it very kind of like awkward watching her sort of like be this horny enchantress? That's basically how it was, how she was being. And she had this like glitter carrier bag wrapped all around her, is what it seemed like. For a family movie, I felt that was gearing towards something a bit too suggestive. And when I was watching this with my little brother, the whole movie was fine to watch with him. But when me and my brother saw this scene, I saw it coming, I found it uncomfortable when I was a kid, and still to this day I find it kind of uncomfortable. Even my little brother, he looked at me and gave me some sort of like awkward, uncomfortable smile, and I gave him the same one back. I don't know what it was like back then. Maybe back then it was more creepy, but now it's not creepy. It just comes off as weird. Apart from that, I thoroughly enjoyed this film, and I think I'm actually kind of becoming a fan of it. Okay, now what would I rate the movie? Well, when I finished watching it, I was thinking that the movie doesn't deserve an 8, because that's too low, and I was thinking of giving it a 9, but I thought a 9 was too high. I think an 8.5 would be perfect for this movie. However, hear me out, after I finished watching the movie, I was just sort of like reflecting upon it. I have so much good memories of watching the movie. I kind of felt like I wanted to watch it again, just for the atmosphere and the jokes that were in the movie, and for me to have fond memories of a movie walking away from it, it gave me a good feeling inside. So because of that, the original Ghostbusters gets a 9 out of 10, and it thoroughly deserves it. For it to hold up this well, and for me to give the movie a 9 out of 10, that is great. That is a compliment. And my 11-year-old brother who watched the movie, at the end of it, he gave it a 9 out of 10 as well. So again, if it's someone like him could thoroughly enjoy it, I can only imagine how much more he would enjoy it once he gets older and starts to understand the jokes that the movie was trying to relay. Now I'm going to say one thing about this Ghostbusters movie, and it's in direct comparison to the crappy remake, and that is, the remake seems like a very sexist movie. I'm going to discuss that in a future video as some more information has sort of like hit the internet. So guys, let me know what you thought of the original Ghostbusters movie. Is there anything I missed? Anything you wanted me to talk about that I didn't talk about? Let me know in the comments below. And also, if you want me to review the new Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, not that new Ghostbusters, then let me know and I will review that as well in an upcoming video. And I've also got another review coming for you guys very soon, and that is going to be the 2016 Ghostbusters video game for the PS4. Now, I know what you're thinking, all jokes aside, the video game is a completely different form of entertainment, so I'll judge it as such. I'm not going to compare it to the movie, because I don't think this game has any sexist messages going on like the movie did. So, I'll separate my opinions of the movie from the game. So, that's it guys, thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and stay tuned for my next video on the new Ghostbusters, and until then, I'll catch all of you in the next video. Take care.